Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of a pro wrestling podcast with Matt and friends. I am your host, Matt Kozakowski. It has been a long hiatus out of this show, 8 months and counting. And today I am here with none other than Rhodes Wrestling Academy standout, Slim Seven. Slim, how you doing, my friend?
What's up, Matt? How you doing, man? I'm good.
Good, man. Good. I'm glad that, you know what, I start off the year with a fresh face in pro wrestling, and I'm really pumped about it.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
you're gonna go big places, man. I really do.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've watched your matches, and obviously in this conversation, I want to get down to that, but I'm gonna start off simple. When was the first time you really experienced pro wrestling?
Uh, well, there's two different answers. So I feel like my first experience to it was like a real life encounter. Like I was like, I want to say like 6 or 7, and my dad took us to like a pizza place, like downtown, like it was like by the beach or whatever. And there was this like really big guy sitting in the booth in front of us, and I'm like, he stands out because he's so big,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Hey, you guys know who that is?" And we're like, "No," and he's like, "It's a wrestler named Kevin Nash,"
Oh,
and
that's
so
awesome.
he's just so happens to be like at a pizza place in friggin' uh, a beach in Florida, like. So that was like, I didn't know. I was like 6, 7. I didn't get into wrestling until I was probably like 11 or 12.
Okay.
Yeah, like around. I know I'm gonna sound super young for this, but like probably like 2014. Like that's when I really started like getting into it, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is pretty legit. But yeah, probably like 11 or 12, I'd say.
That's pretty cool, man. Did you get to take a picture with Kevin Nash? Like, did your dad say, like, "Hey, go take a picture with him"? Or
Uh, I don't really recall. Oh, to follow that up though, uh, we saw him there, and we lived in Daytona Beach, this little small beach town out in Florida. We lived there. Saw him when I was like 6 or 7. Then we moved to Orlando for a little bit, and then we moved back to Daytona. And then we're like, yeah, screw it, let's go back to that pizza place.
yeah.
And we're like, we're sitting in a different booth this time, and we're like, hey, you guys remember? I think I was a wrestling fan at this time too. He's like, do you guys remember when we were sitting in that booth over there, and Kevin Nash was sitting right. Yo, he was sitting there again.
That's awesome.
Crazy, crazy, dude. Insane.
So,
But
did you go up to him? Did you meet him? Like, did you actually get a chance to talk to him? Or
nah, I think I was too scared. And I think he also had some like I think he had some like allegations at the time too, so it wasn't like a
uh,
really good thing going on. But
I got you.
yeah,
I get you. I
mostly
mean,
too
that's pretty
scared though, I
cool,
think.
though. I mean, seeing Kevin Nash like just chilling, eating pizza, like
Oh
that's
yeah, and it means so much more too because at that time I was a wrestling fan, and I was just like, yo, we saw him when we were 6 or 7, and now I'm like, dude, I was freaking out like hella after that.
Oh, of course, man. I fangirl every time I get to meet a pro wrestler, like hardcore.
Yeah, bro.
I know that's the term. They don't call it fanboying, they call it fangirling for some reason. So
Or
I'm like,
dude, or just marks in general,
marks.
like
There you go.
yeah, there's
Let's
your
do that.
terminology. Yeah.
But yeah, no, dude, I mark out anytime, dude. Independent wrestlers, contracted wrestlers, anytime, dude. Anytime I meet a
dude
pro wrestler, mark out.
dude they're real life superheroes, man.
Oh, of course. I had TJ Perkins on my show when I first started my show, and I met him live at a Warrior Wrestling event in Chicago, and just talking to him one on one in person was so much more like an awesome feeling, like way cooler
Yeah,
than actually doing this with him one on one. And we just talked, man. Like we knew each other for years. Like he was just so down to earth, so cool, and he's a
yeah, yeah.
legend to me. I mean, I consider him one of the best of all time. So it's pretty
Agreed,
cool.
bro. Agreed. TJP's the man.
Oh, absolutely. Now growing up, I know you said you became a wrestling fan, around 2014. Did you play any other sports growing up?
Everyone played like basketball. I played baseball, but I did that for a little bit. But I was like really keen on like track.
Okay.
Like I used that as my outlet, and this is gonna sound ridiculous, but I used that as like my outlet to becoming a pro wrestler because we didn't have wrestling where I went to school, like amateur wrestling.
Yeah.
So I used like track as my outlet. Like I knew I was gonna be a wrestler because I didn't know really anything else that I wanted to do in my life. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just be a wrestler, I guess. So uh I did track for like 1 or 2, like it was 2 years, and I was just like, all right, I'm only doing this so I can like mentally prepare, physically prepare to become a wrestler, which I had no idea like what I was getting into. I just thought like, oh, you got to be in like decent shape and like be mentally tough and whatnot. So those are like where my roots are at, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, doing track obviously, puts you at the speed into professional wrestling, hitting the ropes and doing quicker moves than a lot of others. I mean, you
Yeah.
see like signs like Bianca Belair, she did track, and look
Yeah, that's
how
right. I forgot about
amazing she is talented wise. So,
that. Yeah, very athletic. Yeah.
but yeah, so I mean, you knew pretty much right when you started watching wrestling, like that was what you wanted to do.
Pretty much like it was like the only thing that you know how people say like you do what you love and you won't work a day in your life. Like
Yeah.
growing up, I heard that all the time, and my mom and my mother and my father are like very passionate people about what they do. So I'm just like 12 or 13. I'm just like, well, I guess I'm just gonna be a wrestler. Like it almost was like I didn't have to think twice about it. Everyone else
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I'm gonna go be like a doctor or a lawyer, which is cool, everything to them. But I'm just like, nah, I kind of want to be like a wrestler because you didn't hear a lot of people saying stuff like that.
Oh
And then,
yeah.
like in school, like you got the people that like they don't believe you and they're just like, oh yeah, sure, because I was super small, like kid, and they're just like, oh yeah, sure, you're gonna be a wrestler, right? And then I'm like, oh, I mean, like it's what I love, so I'm gonna do what I can. Uh, and now they're just like, whoa, like you're a wrestler now, man. So that's kind of cool to like kind of come full circle there.
And to get trained by one of the absolute best, I mean that's just an awesome thing too. I mean, Goldust, Dustin Rhodes, whatever anybody knows him by, just fantastic wrestler all around. I mean, to
Yeah,
get to
man.
go to his school, I mean, that's crazy, man. But
I'm
yeah, no,
spoiled,
I
yeah.
mean, did you get a lot of kids in school like telling you like, oh man, wrestling's fake? Like, did you get
Dude,
that a lot too when you wanted to
dude.
do it?
All the time. All the time. I was like the wrestling guy. Like whenever wrestling came up on my phone and my friends saw it, they're like, "Oh, like you're into that fake wrestling stuff." And it was like I was kind of sensitive back in the day. I was like super offended. I was like, "Yo, you guys don't like me because I liked wrestling or so, there's, those people like that are few and far between. But now
Oh
it's
yeah.
funny because those people that said that kind of stuff are just like, "Whoa, like they're kind of into wrestling now,
Yeah.
because they're seeing me do it." So I don't know. That's funny how that came full circle as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that thing is I don't think a lot of people understand that wrestling isn't fake. I mean, yeah, storylines are written and, the moves are protected sometimes, but if you don't take a bump the right way or anything, you could get seriously injured. I mean,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I
yeah,
tell
yeah.
people my story about when I trained to be a pro wrestler. Like first day training, they told us take a corner bump. So you walked from the corner into the middle of the ring and just fell backwards. And I smacked the crap out of my head and I ended up with a
Oh,
severe concussion. And the doctor was like, yeah, so I don't think wrestling is going to be in your future. And I was like, man, that sucks because I had
mm.
everything planned out, my gimmick, my name, everything.
What
Like,
was your gimmick? What was your gimmick in your name? Sorry, sidetracked you.
so my name was going to be the Rocket Paul Matthews. Um,
Okay.
so I grew up in a Catholic household, obviously. So we had confirmation, and my confirmation name was Paul. Um, and I based it off the monkey from After Jimmy Neutron. I don't know if you ever remember watching
Yo,
that,
hey, yeah, 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 yeah,
but
yeah.
he'd pop up, be like, "Hi, I'm Paul," and I'm like,
Right,
"Dude,
right.
I'm going with Paul just because of that." Like,
Okay,
so
yeah. Interesting.
obviously, I took my first name as my last name, and like I was a big fan of Paul London growing up, like a big fan of Paul London.
I get compared
Still
to him a
am,
lot.
and I used to love how he used to run to the ring, like just slide in and then go to the
Oh, yeah, yeah,
turnbuckle and
yeah.
so I was a big fan of that. And I watched it and I'm like, man, he speeds so friggin' fast, man, and just takes off. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna nickname myself the Rocket just because.
Heck
And
yeah, dude.
I did that, and I was gonna be from Atlanta, Georgia. I practiced my AJ Styles accent. I pictured that, so I had that down pat, and I would practice like promos in the mirror, like with a fake replica championship, like one of those toy belts, and like
Yeah,
I'd
dude. Yeah.
pack a pretend suitcase, and I'd promo myself in the mirror, man, as a heel. Like I would be like, this championship means more to me than my wife, and like all this stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
dude, that's where it
you know,
starts though, man. Like that's what you
oh
got to
man,
do.
I loved it so much. And yeah, I modeled my move sets pretty much off of like Xavier Woods, AJ Styles, Paul London, and Mark Briscoe. And rest in peace to his brother Jay, who we just found out passed away. Very heartbreaking. The
Hmm.
Briscoes, fantastic wrestlers, and Jay is such a legend, man. I mean, multiple time ROH world champion, just absolutely killed it. And it's so tragic what happened to him. And
Yeah.
very heartbreaking.
Hmm.
But yeah, I modeled myself off of those four, and I wanted to do like I had my finishers. It was going to be a hammerlock DDT and the froggy elbow that Mark Briscoe does, and
Okay.
I
Yeah.
love the hammerlock DDT that Xavier Woods did when he was in TNA wrestling. It was called the Creed DT. So I
Oh yeah.
modeled all of it based on those four, and sadly I ended up getting a concussion. I didn't get to do it, but that's why I love doing this, is getting to talk to you guys, especially newer wrestlers in the business who are going to have such a bright future ahead of them. It's such a cool thing to hear their story and how they began, just to see where they're going to end up going.
Yeah, yeah. It's
um
cool that you're like still a part of it. You're still like involved, you know. Like
oh,
a lot of people
absolutely.
when something bad happens in wrestling, they're just like, well, now I gotta find something else, and they, lose touch with the wrestling world, which, it's unfortunate, but it's cool that you're still like involved and you
Oh
get to
yeah.
interact with wrestlers and be part of all of this magic that's going on.
Oh yeah,
So,
and I love doing it. Especially my goal is never to get, like, obviously once in a while I like to get big names on my show, but I like to get people that just started. Like I said, I mean, because I like to get their story and how they started. Because there's only so many questions you could really ask in a podcast, and it's easier to do when you're in a show where you're doing it with somebody who's only been in the business for such a short time, because then you could really get into how'd you start, where are you going, like, kind of take
yeah,
that bigger dive. um
right.
that's why, like, when I told you, before we started, like, Chad Lennox, who is one of the trainers at the RWA. He helps you guys out a lot. I absolutely, that guy's absolutely incredible, like such a great person. I've talked to him
Mhm.
friendship wise, like we've just talked. Such an awesome dude. I love his "I
Yeah,
hate
yeah.
it here." I love his "I hate it here" catchphrase.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
That's
fantastic.
like he lives that gimmick. He hates it everywhere.
Oh yeah,
I love the
absolutely.
guy, but like he lives the gimmick.
Oh yeah, and it's so funny because in one of the showcases, he was just standing outside the ring, and all I hear is randomly, "I hate it here," and I'm like, "Oh, Chad,"
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
Chad for you.
getting to talk to somebody like that, not knowing he was a pro wrestler before the RWA, I mean, just hearing his story, it's cool. I love doing it.
Yeah.
Um, but so tell me this: who was your favorite pro wrestler growing up? Favorite female wrestler? Favorite tag team?
Favorite wrestler has to probably go to Dean Ambrose because he's really like, how do I describe it? Like, I feel like his storyline he had when I first started watching wrestling, like I resonated with the most when right after the Shield broke up, like
Yeah.
he was on his own and he was kind of like, screw everybody, like that was my mindset as like a 14-year-old kid. So I'm just like, I really related with him there. Um, so just like looking at him and like he inspired me and like got me through my hard days, and he really had a big impact on not only like my wrestling like career going forward, but like my life in general, like growing up.
Oh yeah.
Him, and then you said female wrestler.
Yep.
Growing up, it was probably Alexa Bliss at first because it was like, 14-year-old kid. I thought she was kind of hot. So I was just like,
Who doesn't,
so
dude? 31. I
yeah,
still think she's hot.
yeah. So funny story. I actually got to meet her. Like,
Did you?
how was that? Yeah, I met her when I was like 15 or something. So like, but in my brain, I'm like, I don't want to just meet her. I want to like leave an impression. So like one day she could remember me. I wanted to do something, and I don't know like how smart this was looking back, but I met her, and my plan was I wanted to buy her like something that she carries with her everywhere, you know. So I'm like, okay, everyone carries their phone with them, so I'm gonna buy her a phone case. So I bought her like a Stitch, like a Lilo and Stitch, like
Yeah.
rubber phone case. and I gave it to her, and I was just like, being all, uh, cringy, freaking trying to be charming, and I gave her this phone case. I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh my gosh, she put it on her phone like immediately. And then like for
That's
the next
awesome.
eight months, she's taking photos and like selfies with this phone case. And I'm like, dude, I win. I don't care what anybody says. I won. So like hopefully in the next, 10 years I see her. I'm just like, oh, remember me? I'm that guy, like so I'm praying. But yeah, probably her. Um, but nowadays, man, it's so hard because I love so many of the women in professional wrestling.
Oh yeah.
In like 2014 they didn't showcase it as much. They had like the Divas division and whatnot, like which was cool, and then they had the Women's Revolution or Evolution, whatever. But like I don't know what it is, but like over the past couple of years, like women's wrestling has gotten like awesome and like good,
Yeah.
and like you love to see it. So like I don't know, there's so many like nowadays that I just like, oh, I'm so excited to watch her, like Jamie Hayter or
Oh yeah, dude. She's killing
Jamie
it.
Hayter. Yeah. So like I'm just like, man, I'm actually excited to watch women's wrestling,
Oh yeah.
Almost more excited than to watch the guys. Cause like the guys are just on the show all the time. So I'm like, oh, women's wrestling, you get to see something different. Um, and then you said tag team.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Um, man, I'm drawing a blank right now.
There's so many great tag teams,
I
man.
know. Yeah.
I mean, I know
I
for
don't have
me, it's the Motor City Machine Guns, hands down.
why is that?
So Chris Sabin's my third favorite wrestler of all time. I truly believe Alex Shelley is the greatest wrestler of all time.
I
Uh,
can agree with you there. Like
um,
technical, like
yes,
he's
all around,
awesome, dude. Yeah.
all around. And just their tag matches, just their chemistry together is so iconic, and like they just get better and better, man. And they separated for a while. Like Sabin didn't wrestle for a while. Shelley stopped wrestling for a minute, and they get back in it and just back to where they started. They're absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
And I was there from the beginning, and I'm still there. Like I remember Sabin's heel turn, and then them just partnering up, and ever since then, like Paul London and Brian Kendrick were my favorite tag team for a long time. But the more I watch the Machine Guns, and especially now, it's like that flipped a switch for me, and I'm like, the Machine Guns are number one, and then the American Wolves are number two. Davey Richards is my favorite all-time wrestler, so him and Eddie Edwards just together, fantastic.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Um, I'm trying to think of an answer, but I feel like this is one of those answers that just like changes every time I'm being asked it. But for right now, I think my go-to, just off the top of my head, because like I know every time I watch them, I'm just like, oh, of course it's gonna be like a bang. It's FTR.
Yeah.
And I know like a lot of people are just like, yeah, of course, but like right now, that's the answer that comes to my head like immediately, like FTR, because they're so like they really know how to take uh what's the one we're trying to say? Like you remember how they said in WWE like no flips, just fists? Like
Yeah,
they
they're
really,
a
really
throwback.
define that. Yeah. And it's just like they found a way to like make it entertaining too.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it wasn't just like, oh, just traditional wrestlers, like they really took the flips out, took the spots out, and they really told like a story. And it's amazing how much they can do by doing like essentially not that much and being able to tell a story. And just like I don't know, that's what fascinates me the most. Like it can love like the spot wrestling, that's cool, but like
Yeah.
to watch those guys and see how much they can do and with what they're capable of, like it's just I don't know, they never fail to disappoint.
Oh, absolutely. And it's crazy to me watching Dax, especially when he was first in NXT. Like he was partnered up with Garrett Dillon, he partnered up with Rusev Mero, and then he got Cash as his tag team partner. And like right off the bat, I felt like these two were gonna click. And
Yeah.
like they just killed it. The matches with the Alpha, American Alpha, and the matches
Yeah.
that they had with DIY, they just
Yeah.
absolutely, blew my mind. And then they come to the main roster, have amazing matches with the Usos. I still cringe every time I see that shaving the back thing. Like that was
Oh yeah.
that was too sad to see because they didn't deserve that.
Yeah.
But the matches they have, man, they just kill it. I mean, I want that 2-on-2 match, the FTR versus the Motor City. I need that match just
I think
two
it'll
on
happen.
two.
I think it could happen. I could see it.
I hope so in the future. I mean, but look, they had matches with Aussie Open, killed it. Briscoes
Yeah.
killed it.
Yeah.
They're amazing, dude. FTR, and I don't say that just to be a bandwagon person either, because I truly believe it. I know some people jump on the FTR bandwagon because of how good they are.
I think at
You
this
know,
point, like it beats the like bandwagon. It's just like fact. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like it's not like trend. It's not like opinion. It's just like, yo, fact. Like
yeah,
Bryan Danielson is the greatest technical wrestler of all time. Fact.
yeah.
Or like whatever. It's just like these are just facts now. There's no bandwagon or
Oh,
trend.
absolutely. I mean, I love Bryan Danielson. Don't get me wrong, but I still think like even technical wise, Alex Shelley, hands down, hands
Yeah, I
down.
can see what you're saying. I see what you're saying though.
You
But
know.
either way, like up there.
Oh yeah.
Fact.
No, I get that for sure. And, like you said, man, I mean, they just never miss a beat. FTR just
Yeah.
match after match. Solo matches, Dax has been killing it. I mean, just to see what he's doing. We haven't seen a lot of Cash's solo matches yet,
No, yeah, I was
but,
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
tag team, man, I still,
Solid.
I'm torn between the Usos and FTR. I really am because I love the Usos too. And when they had the Usos as number one ranked for the year, I was torn because I could agree and I could say FTR. So I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
stuck.
they go hand in hand. I think it's just like a weekly thing. Like, oh, the Usos did better this week, or like FDR did
Yeah.
better this week. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I can see what you're saying though. They're both very, very entertaining to watch.
Oh, absolutely. So let's talk about your journey to the RWA, the Rhodes Wrestling Academy. So you started there. Your first match, they announced that you were 19 years old coming into your first match.
18. Oh, wait, no, you're right.
I think they
19.
said
You're right.
19. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I don't even know how old I am. You're right.
So right out of high school, was that your thing, or did you take a year in college? Or did you just kind of take a year break and then get into pro wrestling? How did this whole story come about?
No, so I was in high school and I graduated in 2020. So like that was the start of like the end of the world pretty much, right? Or the
Yeah.
beginning of the end of the world with the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
So where I graduated 2020 and like school got out in like March and we were like told we're gonna have this extra long spring break and ended up turning into COVID and like you just everything goes on lockdown and
Yeah.
I was the new kid because it was my first year here in Texas at a new school. So I was just like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I guess I'm just gonna work out and just like try to get in like tip top like wrestling shape because that's what I want to do with my life, right? And then as the world starts to somewhat open up again and real life starts becoming a thing, because in high school like you don't really know real life until it hits you right after you graduate or whatever.
Yeah.
So like the world starts to open up and I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this wrestling thing. Like when things start to get really scary, I'm very like, oh, dude, I do not know how I'm gonna make this happen. Like I'm just kind of praying, like let Jesus take the wheel. Something will come up.
Yeah.
But like it was getting to a point where I'm like, I was considering going in the military for a while, but my mom was always like, just stick with the wrestling thing. You don't know what can happen. Like, just save your money. If you have to go and train across the freaking country, we'll make that happen. So I'm just like, man, I don't know how to do any of that. But my mom and my dad were always pushing for me, like, oh, just save your money, like, just be smart about things. And I'm just like, okay. I was just considering the military, and I'm talking to my dad because my dad's a Marine, and he's like, well, let's just talk to a recruiter and just see what he has to say next week. And uh, right when we're about to go do that, Dustin puts like a freaking promotional the logo for the school on Facebook, and my dad saw it, and he's like, okay, so I know we're gonna talk about this military thing, but like I want to show you something first. And he shows me the school logo, and I'm like, that's where I'm gonna go. Like it was just like this is where I'm gonna go. We've been to a lot of training schools, and just a lot of them were just kind of they had an off vibe like you'll get from some training schools, or they just want your money, or they're just kind of like beat you up or whatever. So I got that vibe from a couple that I visited. Um, and it's funny because like a year before we actually talked about the wrestling school, I think right when we moved here, my dad's like, well, I guess Dustin Rhodes lives here. Why don't you just get in contact with him and he can train you? And I'm like, why the F would he want to train me? Like, just some random freaking 15, 16-year-old Mark that's just like obsessed with, oh, I want to learn, and just like,
Yeah,
why would he want to, right? And then like a year and a half later, my dad's showing me this freaking logo. I'm like, oh, I guess that's where I'm going.
that's awesome.
So it was like, it didn't even take me like a split second to be like, oh, uh, what if I don't make, like, no, I was gonna be there. Like, I was going to be at that school, like, no matter what. And I like truly believe that. So I like overdid my uh I was obsessed with the idea of wrestling, so I wanted to tell a story like going into the school. So I uploaded like little montage clips on my YouTube channel of like me preparing for the school, and like my friends always like pick on me for it, but this was like, oh, Sal running up the track and field like bleachers, like the football bleachers or whatever, just making this like super like Rocky Balboa training montage of like me going to school and cutting these promos that I have no idea like what I'm saying. I just know it sounds cool. And I'm just like, yeah, Camp 3, look out, because I'm coming, whatever. You just like, dude, I was so obsessed and like excited because this is what I was gonna do. Um, and it, like as soon as I was making those like even before I got like the call, I was going to the school. Like I did one or two, I think I did one, and then Dustin called me, and I'm like, oh, it's for sure now. So I had like an
Yeah.
8 month notice, and all I did was just like work 2 jobs, come home, work out, get ready for this school, and then I did a couple other like promo videos. So I thought they were, uh, and this is just like my thing, man. Like this is what I was obsessed with doing, was just like trying to tell a story of like me getting ready for this school. And so, not gonna lie, I was just like, man, I'm gonna be so good at this wrestling thing. And then day one, you just basic wrestling school, front rolls, freaking quarter rolls, take a bump,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this actually like hurts a lot. Like I'm like, ow. And so I remember like being so in my head because like I had 8 months of just like building up this like, yo, I'm gonna be so good at this, so good. And then like the first day, that tower came like crashing down. I just threw myself in my car, and my dad drove me home, and he's like, so how was it? And I'm like, you know what, Dad? I really suck at this. But one day I won't. Like,
You
but
gave yourself a lot of confidence there, man. And that's what you need, especially going into pro wrestling is the first time ever and first day of training. Like that's the first story I've ever heard is somebody hyping themselves up that much to actually believe in themselves. And that's really awesome to hear.
yeah.
Now like when you got inside your head though with the first day of training, were you ever like in your head to the point where you were like, I'm gonna give up, or did you just continue to push and push and push until you got to that showcase?
I think it was just kind of came second nature to me. Like it was just like, well, I have to get good at this because this is what I have to know. Like I noticed the difference between me learning wrestling and me learning like math in school by like, and I think Moxley said this in his book once, in the beginning, where he's like, you're in math and you're like, well, I don't need to learn the Pythagorean theorem because when am I gonna ever apply that?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't care. But like when Dustin is teaching us arm drags, I'm like the quiet kid, and I'm just like trying to shut up and listen, like zero freaking laser focused on like I have to know how to do an arm drag because this is going to be my life. So there was really no like, oh, there was some moments where I'm like, just keep pushing, trust the process. I was always told. Um, but for the most part, it was just like, well, this is what I want to do. Like I worked really hard for this moment. So like there was no second thoughts of like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. First day was like rough, but it wasn't like, man, screw this. It was just like, well, give yourself a break. Like
Yeah.
I've never done this before in my life.
Right.
So that's how
No,
that
that's
went.
awesome, man. Absolutely. So how did you come up with the name Slim Seven?
Slim 7. So growing up in school, my band teacher, I've never actually told this story to anybody, so you're the first.
Awesome.
Well, I've told Slim, but like never like the OG way, like origin of the name. So growing up in middle school, my band teacher had a hard time calling me Sal, which is my shoot name. So uh, they're just like, well, we'll just give you a nickname, and I'm like, okay. And my initials are Salvatore Lawrence Muscat, and that's spelled SLM. And me and my buddy were just like super keen on like music, and we loved Eminem. He's like,
Yeah.
dude, we'll just call you Slim. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So she could say Slim perfectly fine. So like my nickname was just Slim in school, and like everyone just kind of knew me as Slim. And that buddy I was talking about, like he actually started watching wrestling around the same time I did, so we'd always like talk about it and stuff. So that's funny how
Yeah.
that worked out. So that's how I got Slim. I think I just put the I in there because it's just like Slim, and not just
Yeah.
SLM. Um,
Right.
and I'm also hoping for a sponsorship from Slim Jim, if they're listening. And then
We'll tweet at
7,
them for this for sure and be like, yo, Slim Jim.
yeah, hey man, match made in heaven. Uh, 7 was I'm born on the 7th of August,
Okay.
and there's like a couple of things with this. Let me think. I was born on the 7th of August. Uh, oh, Dustin did a character called Seven. You remember that? And
Yeah,
that's
like
this
it
is
was
like
like that one day where he just showed up and then he was like,
right.
screw this. Like
Exactly. Uh, I was like my minor homage to him. Like, oh
okay.
yeah, I was born on the 7th, and then like uh he like Dustin did the 7 thing, and I'm just like, oh, that's cool. Like it kind of like I can tie that back to him. And then the other one was I was obsessed with Motley Crue growing up, and then like how
Okay.
Nikki Six changed his name to Nikki Six, like a number. So I'm just like, oh, that's cool. I'll just do that. And then I told Dustin it, and he's like, dude, you need to get that trademark like right now. He's
That's
like,
awesome.
he loved it. So I'm like, oh, I guess I'm stuck with this now. So here I am.
When I was doing these questions, I actually thought about that 7 thing, and I'm like, I wonder if he did that as like an homage to Dustin. And that you said that, I was like, all right, cool. I was right. That
Yeah,
was a part
there
of
you
it.
go.
That's awesome, man. Having I don't understand how your teacher couldn't say Sal. Like that's
I
just
don't get it
wild to
either,
me.
bro. I don't remember where she was from, but she had just I don't know. She's just a regular like older woman. Like she just couldn't say my name, or she kept calling me Sale or like Soul. So I'm like, I don't think it's that hard, but
That's
whatever.
awesome. That's
Happened
awesome.
for a reason, I guess.
No, absolutely. I get it. I mean, hey, you came up with your wrestling name from it and it has its own
Yeah, right.
story, so
I,
it's pretty
I, I can
solid.
thank my 7th grade band teacher.
When you write your own book later on, you can dedicate it to her.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Jennings, or whatever her name was.
Right. So your first match on the showcase, it was showcase number 3, right? So
Yeah.
your first match, you were the first match, exactly the first match, and it was against Chad Lennox. Now I'm gonna be
Yep.
totally honest. In this match, I was biased because I already had Chad on my show,
Of course you
so
were. Of
I
course
I
you were.
had to root for Chad. But I was very impressed with what you did in that ring. And I will say this, man, when I watched your guys' promo before the match, when the promos came out on YouTube, and I watched you and Chad do your little exchange back and forth there, I was like, man, this kid could cut a promo, man. Like he could talk. And it's very hard to see that from a brand new wrestler. You don't get a lot of wrestlers that can actually cut a good promo. And I was
Yeah.
actually really impressed with your work on that. And then when I seen you come out and you did your match, I was like, all right, let's see what else this kid's gonna do in his future, man. I was pumped. And then I read obviously the showcase card, and it didn't really say in like the thing that it showed that you were gonna be in a second match until you came out for a second match.
Yeah.
Because I think his name was Joey Wentz at the time, but I think he's
Yeah,
changed
Joey
it now.
Wentz. Something
Um,
I don't know.
yeah, something now. Whatever.
Mm.
But yeah, no, I was very impressed. The first time I seen showcase where a wrestler wrestled twice in one showcase. Well, no, I think Chad did it twice in the second one.
Did
Um,
he no, Lucas. Lucas did it twice. It wasn't
okay,
Chad.
okay, I knew somebody did it from the Armada,
Yeah.
and we're gonna talk about the Armada later on here.
Oh
Um,
boy.
oh boy. But yeah, I mean, first match against Chad Lennox. I mean, that had to be fun though. I mean, to wrestle somebody who actually helped in training and being there for you guys and stuff like that. That had to be an honor being able to step in the ring with somebody like that. So tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about that match, how you felt going out there for your first ever match.
So I remember like getting the initial like when Dustin goes over the showcase like card, and like the only person that I wanted to face at that school was this freaking idiot Chad Lennox. Because watching all these showcases at my house, like seeing Chad on my screen every showcase, I'm like, is this is this Dustin's little like nephew or like why is he always here? Like I actually hated him. Like even meeting
That's
him, like I was like, oh, good to meet you,
hilarious.
everybody. And then I met Chad. I'm like, hey, what's up, bro? Like I knew you were gonna be here. Like how did I know? So, uh, so I remember we did like a practice promo, and I'm just like, Dustin's like, all right, just pick someone from the school or pick someone in AEW and just cut a promo on. I'm like, I know who I'm doing mine on. So I did it on Chad, and he's just like, okay, well, I just know you're getting one back. And then a couple weeks later, we talked about like the matches on the showcase or whatever, and Dustin's like, start of the showcase will be Sal versus Chad Lennox, and I'm sitting next to him, and I'm like, oh really? Like I was pumped, dude. I was like, yes. Uh, but no, he was like super helpful, like breaking kayfabe here. But like he was super helpful, like helping me put together a match. Like I was just overthinking and just like overcomplicating like everything.
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, I don't know what moves would I do, or like I don't know. I was just doing whatever was cool. So I did so many moves in that match. I was just like, I don't know, like just like I guess that's cool, you know. But he helped me so much with like building the structure and just helping me piece things together. And he was very like he was helpful. And I don't know what other word I'm trying to use here, but like it wasn't just like a one-off match for him on the showcase. He was like actively trying to teach me, you know, this is
Oh
why
yeah.
we do things. Like when Dustin wasn't teaching, it was Chad teaching.
Oh, absolutely.
So he did a great job like guiding me through that match and making me look like $1,000,000 in my first match. So I owe it forever. Like he's forever in my debt for that. But um, what was I gonna say? Oh, promo day. That's funny you brought that up because would you say like, oh, this kid got a promo? Like,
Yeah.
in fact, it took me like over like 30 attempts to get that promo.
Oh,
Like,
really?
I struggled, dude.
Oh
Like,
man.
dude. And I mean, I probably ruined it for people. Like, if you go back and watch it, you'll be like, oh, you can kind of tell. Because I'm like borderline frustrated because I can't like get my words right. And the only thing that comes to my mind, and I know I'm such a freaking mark for saying this, but the only thing that comes to my mind is like Eminem, Lose Yourself,
Yeah.
when he's like, they're choking now, the words run out, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
he can't get his words right. So I'm like, oh man, like that's kind of cool, but like because I have that in relation, but I'm like, man, I feel like such an idiot. So I had like a bit of a tough time with the promo. So it's funny you say that. So I'm like, oh, I'll take the compliment, but
I
couldn't be
mean, I
further
didn't
from the
see it,
truth.
man. I didn't see it because you know what? When I was listening to it, I just felt like you were so passionate. Like that's why your words couldn't come out fully. I felt the passion behind your words, and I was like,
And I
man,
and I
you're gonna
think that's
kill it.
like I think that's where it came from ultimately. Like my first couple attempts were like I scripted myself a promo and I wanted to like tell this long story. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, I couldn't memorize it because I want to memorize all my promos. And I'm just like, I'm not that guy. I don't think I can memorize my promos.
Yeah.
But I think like as the attempts went on, I was just growing more and more frustrated. So like I'm subconsciously getting more and more passionately upset. So then when we finally do get that one, I'm just like, I just banged, I guess I don't know what the word would be, but uh it was what it was. So,
I mean,
like
I was
if you
very impressed with you calling, I think you used the words Dustin's right hand bitch. I think
something like
that's
that,
something
yeah,
like that. And I was
yeah,
like, damn, he really just called out Chad, man. That's awesome. But
yeah.
I was very impressed, man. Your first match, I mean, it didn't show, man. It did not show that it was your first match. Like, I could not tell that you never wrestled before. I felt like you had that confidence, and it might have been because Chad helped you guide it, but I could tell that there was that confidence in yourself. And just by this conversation so far, I could tell you have confidence in yourself.
I try, bro. I
And you
try, man.
feel it, man. I felt it in that promo. I felt it in that match. And then you had a tag team match later on that night. You filled in for Joey.
Yeah.
Another fun match, man. So I think, Lucas obviously has had experience beforehand, this being your first match ever on this card, and you do two. It must have been like a great feeling to feel that in your soul, like, oh crap, man, I'm doing two. This is awesome.
So initially it was like we did the showcases, and I'm breaking kayfabe again. Sorry, Terrell, if you're listening. Dustin's wife. We do the showcases like on a weekend, and we do like we split it into 2 days, the matches. So the first day we did like me and Chad's match, and then the next day we're supposed to do that tag match. But I guess we did like a practice match a couple of days prior for that tag match. It was supposed to be Joey, and then he actually hit a frog splash and he broke his hand.
Oh, no.
And I guess like it was just like too close to call. So the night I did my match with Chad, Dustin texts in our Discord, hey, he just lets everybody know Joey will not be able to do the tag team match. Sal will be filling in. And that news to me, like, I'm just like, and I'm in a Walmart and I'm reading this. I'm like, well, this is my second ever wrestling match, right? And I'm like,
yeah,
okay. And it takes me like, what was it? We do like the practice matches, so it took me like a couple weeks to even memorize my match with Chad. So now I'm just put on the spot memorizing this entire tag team match with 3 other people. So I remember just like, trying to be like, I got this. But like in my mind, I'm like, dude, I'm freaking out right now. So I'm like, man, there's one move I wanted to hit in my match with Chad, but it just didn't make sense because it's such a big move. Because I don't know, it just didn't make sense. But it's a move I did to like when I'd wrestle my dad as like a kid. So I'm like, man, it'd be so cool if I could hit that in this tag team match. And it just so happened to be the move that Joey broke his freaking arm on, the frog splash. But I call it the Salvatore splash when I was like super young. So I'm like, hey, Dustin, never done a frog splash in my life. But I was like, hey, Dustin, do you think I could do that frog splash? And he's like, I don't know. Let me see you try it. So we got like the crash pads. And I did it one time. He's like, yeah, go ahead. And I'm like, dude, I never even come off the top rope before. So I'm like,
that's awesome.
Okay. So like when we got to that spot, I was just like, it's like now or never, like all or nothing. So I went for it, man. So
hey, man, it looked good.
I had to redeem Joey too because I felt so bad for his arm, but I was just like, hey, bro, that frog splash, that was for you.
Keep it there. I love it, man. That's awesome. I mean, hey, you honored him by doing the move he was gonna do. So that's at least the part of Joey was there.
I don't know if it was stealing his thunder or like doing that. I don't know. So either way,
I don't think he was going to be too upset about it. He was still shown there and in support, and we got to see who he was. And I'll tell you what, looking at his more recent pictures and stuff based on his newer gimmick, I'm like, dude, this dude's going to be a star too. Like I can tell already.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
I'm very impressed, and he's one of those guys I want to get on my show eventually down the road too. But we'll see how that comes.
What's his name? I'm trying to. Oh, I got it. It's
like
Dutch McLean.
Yeah,
Dutch McLean. We came up with that in the 3rd camp. I remember that. He's like, after we do this camp, I'm going to be Dutch McLean.
It's such a dope name too. Like I was like,
it is pretty
so
cool. Even Dustin thought of that too. He's like, dude, that's pretty freaking hard. Like that's dope.
Yeah, but the McLean last name already got me, and then I was like, all right, I see what's going on here.
That's pretty hard. Yeah.
But no, I mean, so you were the first wrestler in RWA to have 2 back-to-back showcases with 2 matches on each showcase.
You mean like, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
In showcase number 4, you had a tag team match in the beginning, and then you wrestled for the RWA Championship later on. How did that feel going into a championship match on your second show ever in only your 4th match? Like, how were your nerves preparing for that?
So with that, is the same thing as the first showcase, where originally I was just supposed to be in a tag team match, right? I was just supposed to be in a tag team match, and that's it. I was happy with that. Just like, cool, start the show, get to face Chad again, have a little callbacks. That's cool. And then we were doing a practice match, and one of the guys weren't there, so he's like, Dustin's like, hey, Sal, can you fill in for one of these guys so they can just go through the movements? So, I'm just like, all right, I'll plug some of my stuff in there then.
Yeah.
So I plug some of my stuff, and Dustin's like, it was originally a triple threat. Dustin's like, he does this a lot. And he goes, I think I'm going to make this a fatal 4-way. And I'm like, I'm fighting for the belt now. Like, and so, I'm trying my best to play it off like cool, like, oh, yeah, I got this. Like, I'm just in my head, I'm like, I'm just being in the main event alone. I'm like, this is a pretty big deal. I'm kind of terrified, like, so just listen to those guys. They were super helpful too, like in the fatal 4-way. They helped me through like pretty much the whole thing. Cause I'm just like, guys, I've never really been in like a title match or let alone a fatal 4-way. So like, we made it work. It was what it was. But yeah, definitely like intimidating, like to say the least. I try to like, everyone's like, oh, Sal, you can't take the pressure. Like, oh no, I'm like, yo, I got it, guys. Like, it's cool. But like inside, I'm like freaking out, and then like, man, I just hope I can keep up. Like that was my thing because I was only like 6 months in.
Yeah.
So that was it's a tall order.
And I mean, again, man, it didn't show. I mean, it showed that you belonged in that match. I was like, man, I hope he actually pulls this one off. And then JPH actually did it. He ended up winning the title. Paul Hubers had to vacate his championship. That's why I was up in that match. But yeah, no, solid showing again. The third showcase is where it gets fun for you. Or the fifth showcase. You're third, but the fifth.
Yeah.
This showcase, you end up winning the RWA Championship.
That's right.
How did that go about when you were told about it? Like, how did you feel? Like, were you like disbelief, or did you think like, yeah, I feel like I've earned this?
It was more disbelief because I was probably like, he told me before JPH even won the belt. He told me in that camp, I think I'm going to give you the belt, but not yet though. I think it was just like eventually. It wasn't like there was no time for it. It was just like eventually, I think I'm going to give you the belt. So I remember just like, nope. I'm just like, I'm like, you think so? He's like, yeah, I think you're ready. And I'm like, oh, totally, for sure. Like in my head, I'm like, are you sure? Like, I don't know if I'm ready to like represent whatever, but when we got to the fifth camp, I really started to like sharpen my skills, and like I really kind of got like somewhat, I guess, good. I don't want to say good, but like decent at wrestling. So I'm like, all right, I think I can do this. So it eventually kind of became like what's the word? I don't want to say like cockiness, but like, because that's like too harsh. But I was like, yeah, like I was confident.
Yeah.
It was like confident, but it was like, I think I can do this.
You believed in yourself.
Yeah, it eventually became like the lead up to my first camp I did, where it's just like I'm just so like I'm ready, I could do this, So I wanted to build this like awesome match with Jordan. I'm like, dude, I had this like all these spots in my head, like just in the middle of the night, just thinking like, oh shoot, wake up, write it on my phone. I'm just like, yo, I could do this. So my biggest thing was like, going to this school in general was like Rocky Balboa, like inspired the hell out of me. So like he's part of the reason I am who I am today. So I'm like, yo, all right, I need to get like Rocky Balboa inspired trunks for the showcase. And it's funny because the first time Rocky fought for the belt, he wore red and white trunks and he didn't get the belt. He lost. The second time he wore red and black and yellow. And so the second time I fought for the belt, I wore black and yellow. And he got the belt that time. And so I'm like, oh, I got the belt. And then ironically, JPH wore like pretty much the same colors that Apollo wore in the second one.
That's awesome.
So I'm like, and originally I was gonna have like I had different gear made for the fifth showcase, but when I got this idea, it was like a week before we filmed it. So I'm like, man, no way I'm gonna have this gear in time. Like my idea. So I think I had like old trunks with my logo on them, and then I went to Michael's, like the craft store,
Yeah.
and I just bought like ribbon, and I just turned my trunks, like my Nana sewed uh the ribbon onto my trunks. So that's like in a way I think that's like cooler because I have like she made my trunks for me.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got
So
to have her and help you with your stuff too. I mean, that's awesome.
exactly. So that was really cool. But yeah, that was like my like biggest achievement of my life thus far. Like I remember in like high school, I'd always be thinking like, yo, I hold my track bag around the hallways, and I know I sound like a mark again for saying this, but uh holding my track bag around in the hallways at school. I'm just like, one day it's gonna be a championship belt. One day it's gonna be a championship belt. And so like now this is the moment where I win the championship belt. And I'm just like, dude, the culmination of all the years like into right now. You know, it wasn't just like I was trained to be a wrestler like for like a year. It's
Yep.
like I've been trained to be a wrestler like almost my whole life because this is the only thing I wanted to do, you know?
Oh yeah.
Um, so it goes back to like high school, middle school, just mentally, physically preparing, doing the push-ups in my room, doing the sit-ups at like 12 a.m., you know, like doing what I'm like, dude, this is the payoff right now. So this was like my biggest achievement. I wanted to make it a very, very big deal.
Oh,
So like
absolutely.
that's
And it was a big deal. I mean, you could just see it, man. I mean, obviously right now you're the longest reigning RWA champion.
yeah.
Which I
well,
mean, there
well,
you go. Now at this fifth showcase, your fifth ever match in RWA, was that only your fifth match in general, or have you had matches in between now?
I think I had a couple in between. I did what did I do? I did one in Daytona where I'm from. My first ever like debut in front of a crowd was at like the Ocean Center in Daytona Beach
I
that where
don't
the
know.
NWO debuted.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't in the arena, but I was in the ballroom.
Okay.
That's where my first ever like indies show was, which is pretty cool because I got to bring like my wrestling ability like home because I
Yeah.
grew up in Daytona. So I got to like wrestle in the ballroom, and it was like a toy convention slash like wrestling show. So I got to do a tag team match with the guy named Mike Orlando. Does that
Okay.
ring a bell?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Mike, I did a tag match with Mike Orlando versus some guys called the California Kings or something like that. I don't
I
remember.
have not heard of
Um,
them.
yeah, there's some guys in Florida. But that was pretty cool. I think I only did that tag team match, and I did a battle royal there, and I did a tag team match, but I think that's it. Like leading up to the showcase, like all I did was train pretty much.
Okay.
Like train, do the camps or whatever.
Okay. So yeah, so we did that. We did the showcase. Beautiful, beautiful fisherman brainbuster. I have to say,
Yeah,
it
dude,
looks very good, man.
right on hard cam too. Like it was just perfectly placed.
I was like, holy crap, man. It was
I
beautiful,
um I
dude. Beautifully
I
done.
think I almost killed him. Like everyone's like, dude, you busted his brain. He was fine, but like from the shot, they're like, it looks like you killed him. Like,
Dude, it was awesome. It was dude.
yeah,
I will toot somebody's horn when it has to be tooted, and that was a thing of beauty. Like I loved it.
yeah,
I
I
thought it
I
was
agree. And you know
fantastic.
what? Dustin gave me that move too. Like the day before we did the showcase,
Oh,
he's
did
like,
he?
I had troubles finding a finisher, and I'm I came up with a couple, and he's like, oh, that's cool, but like one day he just like
The Dustin pose. Okay.
that's literally, and he goes, I got a finish for you, Sal. I'm like, okay, let me hear it. Fisherman Brainbuster, and I'm like, I have never done a Brainbuster in my life, so I'm like, okay, and so like me and JPH are practicing it, and like I had to like let him know I've never done a Brainbuster, but like sound confident about it, like.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, I got it, bro. I got you. Like I'm protecting you. Like I've never done it before, but like we're gonna be okay. Like so we did it, and it was fine. And Dustin's like, there you go. There's your finish. So I'm like, sure, whatever. I mean, you're a smart man. I trust you. So I ended up going with that.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then after you won the title, we've seen Paul Hubris come out and attack you.
Yeah, yeah.
We've seen Dustin come in, attack him, hand you the title belt. So that had to be a great feeling being on screen with Dustin and him holding your hand up high. I mean,
It's pretty surreal. Like like I said, greatest achievement of my life. Just like that moment, to go from like 17-year-old kid being told by his dad, like, just go train with Dustin. We live in Texas. And I'm just like, I don't know. So like a couple years later, he's holding up his school title, or he's helping me hold up my school title, or whatever. I'm just like, man, like you literally can't beat that. And even just having Paul involved as well, because he helped me a lot too in the camp and third camp and then that fifth camp. At the end of the third camp, when he initially won the belt, when we did our like graduation thing or whatever, we watched showcase, he's like, when I come back and you're ready, I want to drop this to you. And so like, I'm 3 months training and I'm just like, whoa, like, whoa, okay. Like, and he's not not very keen on a lot of compliments from many people. So when he said that, I'm like, dude, you're gonna make me cry. like everyone else is like, Sal, you did so good in this camp. Like, good job. I won like most improved. And I'm like, oh, thank you guys so much. And then Paul's like, when I come back and you're ready, I want to drop this to you. And I'm just like, man, I'm gonna need to like think about that. Yeah, I'm just like, dude, that one was deep. But yeah, so to have him involved at the end was very cool too. Just kind of have like that full circle moment. And I originally thought we were gonna do me versus Paul in the next showcase, but I guess we're on the same team now. So
yep. And we're gonna get to that in a minute here. But yeah, no, Paul, fantastic guy, man. And it's crazy because I never had him on my show yet. I wanted to, but unfortunately, mental health got in my way.
I gotcha.
But Paul, actually, I made a post on Twitter one day when I was really down, and he actually just reached out to me out of nowhere, and he's like, "Hey, man, keep your head up," like very down to earth. And I give him so much credit because I never talked to him ever, and he just out of nowhere, right there. And I was like, dude, that's a straight up guy right there.
Yeah.
Mad respect, and I'm a big fan of his. And I'm coming full circle with the Armada here, man. I'm gonna get the rest of them on here. But you got first full faction on my show. But yeah, I mean, that was an awesome moment seeing you win that title. Now I watched your promo within the going into the 6th showcase, which was the last one.
Yeah.
You did talk about a car accident and nearly losing your life in this promo. Was that an actual car accident or was that part of a promo?
No, that was real. Like everything I said in that promo was like facts. Like the ego part, the car crash, my confidence just being absolutely shot. Like none of that was really. I mean, it was, of course, it was like, kayfabe, but at the same time, like it was real. Like right after I won the belt, I kind of like, everybody has these moments in their life where they achieve something and they kind of forget like where they are on the totem pole of like, I guess, life, and they're just like, oh, I'm the freaking man, I'm just like, oh, I'm the champion of the world. No one can stop me, And right after, like a couple weeks after, I got into a car accident with my buddy, Charles Crawford. If you've seen him on the showcases,
Yes, I have.
We were on our way to a show in Dallas and we're not on our way, we're coming back. And, us being tough guys, we're like, oh, we'll just drive the whole thing and not stay and sleep or whatever. So we were for like 24 hours. I didn't fall asleep behind the wheel or nothing. It was just like, it was like 3 or 4 a.m. I'm just driving on the road and this guy in front of me, like a mile ahead, I could just see him kind of swerving, I'm just like, I never really like seen a drunk driver driving before, I guess. Like, at least not while I'm driving. It was a Saturday night. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So he pulls off into like the middle lane, like the turning lane. He's going to turn to this like crappy motel. And then like we're flying through the light and like last second pulls out of that lane, pushes me off the road. Guy just doesn't stop, keeps going. I thought I broke my arm for a second because the door airbag like extended my arm. So I'm like, oh, swearing up a storm, and then like pull off into the freaking lane next to me. and I just see like him take off. And it's funny because Charles was not funny, but Charles is asleep in the back. And Charles is like the most humble guy I've ever met my entire life. Like such a freaking, person from heaven or whatever. Like I don't know how to describe. I don't. But it's what he is. But he's like the second coming. He even looks like Jesus. But uh, the second like that happens, like he's fine. He's in the back seat right behind the driver's side, and I got hit on the driver's side.
Yeah.
We pull over, car's gone. Like I ain't got nothing on him. I knew the color of the car. That's it.
Yeah.
Pitch black. And he gets in the front seat and he goes, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I think, are you okay?" He's like, yeah, I think so. So we get out of the car and he's just like not panicking. He's just like,
Super
I want to call
calm.
he's just like, let me call my dad. So then he calls his dad and his dad's like, it's 3 or 4 in the morning, Hey Charles, how's it going? Hey dad, we got into a car accident. He's like, oh, is the car okay? Or no, he meant it like, he said, "Are you guys?" He said, "Are you guys okay?" And then he said, "Oh,
Okay.
is the car okay?" Assuming, sorry, I phrased that terribly. He asked if we were okay,
He's like,
but
I
then
thought
he
his
thought,
dad just first off said, "Is the car
no,
okay?"
no. I phrased that terribly, but he thought it was Charles that was driving Charles's car.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, he's not even really that upset about it. Like he's upset like we got into a car accident, but I think he thought that it was his car that got hit, but he was just very like calm, collected. So I'm just like, yo. And his dad came to pick us up. We called the cops. His dad drove us home. He was just like, hey, it's gonna be okay, Sal. It's gonna be okay. And so I'm like, where did you guys come from? Like, why are you guys such good people? Like, Charles, what are you doing in like freaking crappy wrestling, man? Like, you're such a good guy. So, yeah, I actually got into a car accident, and then I was diagnosed with post concussion syndrome, which lasts for like a month and a half or something like that. And like for about that time, I wasn't allowed to wrestle. All I did was like work like 6 days a week, like full time. Try to go to the gym, but I couldn't always do it. And I was just like in my head, but like it's weird how post like concussion syndrome works because you get like headaches, and then like I would struggle to like speak sometimes. Like I couldn't process my thoughts, and
Yeah.
I'm like, is this like trauma or is this like a real thing that just happened to me? Or like I couldn't like process what was going on. So like this camp is going on, the sixth camp, and then Dustin's like, hey, so I need you to defend the belt against Yeet or whatever.
Yeah.
I need you to do a promo. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm even. Well, I did a little bit of like training after I got better, but like I was just thrown right back into it. I'm just like, okay, well, I forgot I'm the champion. I have to defend the belt.
Yeah.
As cliche as it sounds, but uh, I don't know. I was just like, I hope I'm like fully like a physic like health wise, I was good,
Yeah.
but like mentally, I was just like, I don't know if I'm good here.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about like mental health. I'm like, dude, I don't know what's messed me up right now, but my confidence is shot. And so I did that promo, and it was just like I had an ego. I thought I was the guy. Got into this car accident. No longer that guy in my head. I'm just like, dude, I don't know. And so then we did that match, and everything went well. Uh, but yeah, like all that was real, man. Like that was pretty much as real as it gets.
Well, I'm glad you're okay, man. That concussion stuff sounds really shitty. I
Mhm.
had a concussion for a day, but nothing that long. And,
Yeah,
I'm glad you're okay and able to do what you're doing, man. And still
I
doing
appreciate
it.
it, man. Thank you.
Um, hell of a promo though, man. Hell of a promo. The passion was there too. You could tell. And, you said, pretty much how you checked your ego at the door and, and then in this match, we seen a heel turn come from you because, we seen the low blow in this match and you did the double stomp, you retained the title. So the other showcases, you were a face. This was your first kind of heel step. So how did that come about? How did you feel about that?
So I kind of like was getting bored of the whole like white meat baby face freaking show. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't do this because like naturally, as like me as a person, I'm not like as much as I think it. I'm not like fight for your dreams. Like I like being lack of a better term, a smart ass.
Yeah.
So uh, I'm like, man, I want to incorporate somehow like to become a heel. Like I want to figure something out. So we're talking to Dustin, me and Yeet, and he's like, it was originally Dustin's idea. I was thinking in the back of my head, but I don't know when we wanted to like pull the trigger. And so he's like, well, what if we just turn you heel? And I'm like, perfect, let's do that. So, and I'm like, yeah, no harm in that. Okay, let's build this match now. So the story of the match, I wanted to see it as uh, like we both start out like really hot, we're both
Yep.
like good. And then like what happened was like, he's kind of like almost beating me, I'm just like, man, you can see every time I go to shake his hand, like, man, you're kind of tough, man. Like I'm not all the way there. Like I was
Yep.
talking about in that promo, I'm not there yet. I try to sound super confident, like this is my belt, this is my school. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to defend this belt. And like just talking to him about like the match and stuff, I'm just like, I don't know how we're gonna turn me heel, but I don't want to do it in such like a oh, all of a sudden I'm a bad guy, Like
Yeah.
I wanted to show me getting like frustrated. And I don't
Yeah.
want to go full blown heel yet. I'm obsessed with like the slow burn of stories, Like I love that like storytelling element so much that Dustin has instilled into my brain. So I'm like, okay, so let's turn me heel at the end because I want this to be like I'm frustrated. This is
Yep.
the only thing I have anymore. I just got into a car accident. I've just got thrown into this title picture. Like this is all I have.
Yep.
So that I did what I had to do. The ref didn't see it. Like did what I had to do. So
Hey, if they don't
uh
see it, you can't get disqualified,
and here I am, longest reigning RWA champion. So no one's gonna bat an eye.
Hey, history made, man. History made. There's only one longest reigning, and you're it
That's
right
right.
now. So
That's right.
um
I'm the only one to defend the belt too. So
that hey, touche. I mean, well, Lucas did defend it. He just lost it. He didn't get
well,
pinned.
he didn't like successfully defend it though.
Yeah,
Like
you're the only one
he
to
didn't.
successfully defend.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, we've seen you do a double stomp. So we've seen a different finish for that match for you. So are you using both as your finishers now, or are you using just one or the other? Which one are we going with here?
I think I don't know how much I'm gonna be using that double stomp because I thought in my head that looked way cooler. Like I originally wanted to do it like I pop off his back and then land on his back,
Yeah.
but I guess like we didn't talk about that part. I don't think I used the Fisherman Brainbuster because it was either because I couldn't get Yeet up for it or uh I didn't want it to like make me look super strong because I just did something super crappy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I just stole like Seth Rollins curb stomp / Finn Balor like coup de grace. I was just like, cool, that's cool. I might like incorporate it here and there, but like I don't know if I'm gonna be making it like a finish. I got some other ideas in mind for like a finish, and I want like either that brainbuster to be like like I'm obsessed with Kenny Omega's like
One
one
wing
winged
angel.
angel where like he protects it so much, and you can do that.
Yeah.
Like if you don't want to have someone kick out of your finish, don't hit your finish.
Yeah. He
Like
uses the V trigger more than he uses the one wing angel
exactly,
to
exactly.
use
So
the brain buster when needed,
exactly.
But
So
I
you
think
pull
I
that
think the
sucker out.
double stomp and I think the double stomp would work very well if you could do what you explained how you wanted to do it, and after you hit a low blow or something behind a ref's back or whatever, like set it up perfectly, because I think like a double stomp like that, it's like how Cesaro used to do it in the ring where he would just double stomp the midsection and the guy would be like, oh, in pain. Like if you hit him with that low blow and hit it the way you want to hit it, it could be spot on as a finish.
Yeah, yeah. I got a couple other ones I'm working on right now, but I could see myself like visiting it again, maybe from the top rope this next time.
Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty cool.
Have him like bent
Anyways,
over and do the
yeah,
stunt. I
I
feel
think that'd
that,
be pretty
man. I
cool.
feel that. But yeah, I mean, we recently just seen you on AEW Dark Elevation about a month ago. You were in a
Yep.
tag team match against one of the other best tag teams in the world, the Kingdom.
The kingdom.
Tell us what it was like to be in front of a bigger crowd at this time. I mean, it's an AEW crowd, so it's a little bit bigger. So was this your first time being in front of that many people?
Yeah, for sure. First, that many people, yeah, most definitely, because I was like a live TV crowd.
Yeah.
Uh, so like I'm not gonna lie and say like it wasn't intimidating, but like I didn't have a lot to worry about in that match. I knew what my job was, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make these guys look like $1,000,000, like, that's my job, right? So I'm like,
Yep.
okay, I'm like, this is the thing I'm gonna get. I'm gonna make these guys look as best as I freaking can.
Yep.
So it was like nerve wracking, but at the same time, like I'm like, I don't know, just looking around at the crowd and it sounds so cliche. I don't want to sound like a super baby face for saying this, but I'm like, man, I'm just like you guys, like I don't feel like I just so happen to be in the ring.
Yep.
I'm just a fan, but I just so happen to be on the other side of the barricade. Like like a year or two ago, I was in like the cheap seats watching where I'm standing right now.
Yep.
Just thinking like, man, watching Chad get his face beat, like squashed by Wardlow, you know?
I remember you said that in the promo
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, I like maybe someday I'll be like at the HEB Center getting my face squashed by Wardlow too. No, but uh uh I was just like, man, maybe someday. And so like now here I am with my giant Samoan friend, Akivalu. I love that guy. Love that guy. You should get him on too.
You
Uh
know what? I followed him and I said after the showcase that he was on, I would love to get him on, and I never got a response. So maybe you could put in a good word for me.
I'll see what I can do. I'll see what kind
All
of
right.
strings I can pull. He's a
All
hard guy to get through though. He's
right.
super busy. He's an actor.
I did
He's
not
got
know
a
he was
lot
a
going.
part of the Samoan dynasty, though. I did not know that.
Yeah, he's a
That's
big
pretty
deal, man.
dope.
He's cool. I love him. But like, what was your question? Sorry.
No, I was just asking, like, how was your feelings in front of that live crowd like that? Like being a big crowd, being across from one of the best tag teams in the world.
Oh. I mean, surreal. Like, I know it sounds stupid, but it kind of just felt like training because Dustin has that exact ring at the school.
Yeah.
So, when you go to other indie shows, I'm very spoiled to be wrestling and practicing. Sorry, my dog's barking.
Oh, you're good, man.
Training in a AEW ring that Dustin owns. And then you go to indie shows and it's just like, oh, the ring's good, but it's like it's different from like that quality of a ring. So like just being there, I'm like, oh, this is kind of like what I'm used to. And of course there's like a lot of people that I can't even see or like watching me.
Yep.
But I'm just like, okay. I mean, we already went over the match. It was pretty chill. Just talk about stuff, whatever. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I wasn't as nervous as I thought I was gonna be. Like I really thought I was gonna be like quaking in my boots, but uh nah, like for the most part, man, I was pretty like tame. Like I knew I didn't have really much to go off of, so I'm just like, okay, just kind of do what I'm taught, just back to
Yep.
my roots. So I knew my role.
I mean, you took that proton pack like a pro, man. You took that finish like a pro. you
Yeah.
know? But I mean, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett are so professional, man, and them probably like talking to you and making you feel comfortable. It probably was like that's why you weren't as nervous too. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Just calling the match. He's just like, yeah, and then we'll do this. Like, oh yeah, you got this. You got this. I'm just like, yeah,
yeah,
of course. Like it was pretty cool just to kind of like consider myself for a small second like one of the boys. Just like,
yeah.
oh yeah, that was pretty cool. Just kind of being like talked to like that. But yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. And I'm a big fan of them. They're my top 5 favorite tag teams of all time. So to see you against them was pretty dope. Now let me ask you this: when you got there, were they telling you couldn't use the Slim Seven name, or how did that go about?
Honestly, your guess is as good as mine because I I everything I kind of like let them know was all Slim Seven. I don't know how they got access to my shoot name other than like legal stuff, but I'm like, man, everything I sent you guys, even my email, everything, all Slim Seven. And so I'm getting ready to go out, and they call me my shoot name, and I'm like, that's not my name. Just call me like so you can kind of see like as fortunate as I am to even have that opportunity. I'm very, very blessed. You can kind of see the split second on my face after they say my name. I'm just like, oh man, dang it! Like,
I gotta rewatch that part because I was more focused
you
on the
could
match. I gotta
you can kind of see me go, and I like stop moving, and then I'm just like, screw it. This is my one couple of seconds on freaking TV or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, just make the best of it. So I'm like, you know what? You can call me whatever you want. So it didn't really bother me, especially after the fact that like, did you watch like the original Spider-Man movie, like with Tobey Maguire?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, good. Do you remember when he made his wrestling debut and they
Yeah.
got his name wrong?
Yeah.
So like, I'm sure I'll share this on like in the future a lot more, but like Spider-Man's like, yo, Spider-Man's my guy. Like I know I said Rocky Balboa and Dean Ambrose or whatever, but like Spider-Man was my guy growing up. So like
Oh, yeah.
at first I was like kind of like, oh man, I got my name wrong. And I'm like, well, that sounds familiar. And then I rewatched that Spider-Man scene. He got his name wrong too. So I'm like, I don't feel as bad. Like,
Right. I forgot
I'm
what
like,
they call them too, because it's been so
like,
long since I watched it, but I remember them getting it
they,
right. And he's like, no, it's Spider-Man.
no, he wanted to be called the Human Spider, and they
Oh
called
yeah.
him Spider. They called him Spider-Man. So I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
I don't feel as bad anymore.
Hey, I
But
mean, it
yeah,
worked out for the best for him too. So,
yeah, we'll see if I ever
now
return with that.
while we are on the subject of Spider-Man, who is your favorite Spider-Man out of the three? Put them in order for me. Actually, I want to hear this.
Now, there's a correct answer, and I will always say this every time I have this argument because this is not something I take lightly. The best Spider-Man is them all because you love Spider-Man, the character of Spider-Man. That's the correct answer. That's how you
I've
make
never
everybody
heard
happy.
that once ever. I like that.
That's how you avoid controversy. But if you're asking me, it's Tobey Maguire.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
you know
see,
what? But it's
Tom's
hard.
mine, man.
I totally understand that because it's one of those things. It's like for me, it's like religion. It's like,
Yeah.
yo, you can have whatever opinion you like. At the end of the day, we all love Spider-Man. You know,
Yep.
Toby. I grew up with Toby. I was Toby Maguire Spider-Man like every year for Halloween. Then like when I got into my teenage years, Andrew Garfield was around, and I'm like, I like this darker tone where he's like emotional and he's more like relatable. And then like Tom came around. I didn't even like Tom when I first saw him, but then like as I started watching, I'm like, man, he knows like the heart of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's like he knows he embodies like what Stan Lee wrote in the comic books, you know.
And plus, he was
So that's
actually
what
a kid, so it worked out. I
exactly
love that.
exactly. So I'm like, you know what, Tom, you can come on too. You know, like you're good. He's in the collection too because it's just Spider-Man, dude. We all love
Yeah.
Spider-Man, you know. Like, but my real answer is Tobey Maguire.
I got you. I mean, not Spider-Man 3, though. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think
I
it was
can't
as
blame
bad
you.
as people said, but
It's just a meme. It's just a meme, man. Like, and
yeah.
I hate that it's that, but it's the same as the Amazing Spider-Man 2, where they try to tell too many stories at one time.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, it's hard to keep up. And the fact that they also cut a bunch of scenes, so like there's a lot
Didn't
of
help.
plot holes. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
like, well, how do we get here? You know? So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
I mean, it was cool that they got to bring him back for the last Spider-Man movie.
Oh,
You
for
got to
sure,
see
for
him all
sure.
come back. I mean, don't spoil it because I haven't seen it yet. So I'm watching Marvel in chronological order right now from
Wait,
movies
did
and TV
did you just
shows.
say did you just say you have not seen the new Spider-Man movie?
Yes, I have not seen it yet. I'm
Dude,
sorry.
how? I know you don't make me mad. You don't make me mad. I'm just like, how have you not had it spoiled for you?
So I don't know. I just kind of avoid it. I mean, I know some parts that happen because people ruin it, but I try to avoid it as best as possible. But I'm watching Marvel in chronological order from TV shows and movies. And
Yeah.
right now I am in The Runaways. And the earlier shows are so awful. Daredevil
Yeah.
was great. I love
Oh,
Daredevil.
for sure. Yeah.
Iron Fist was okay. It was okay in the beginning, and
Eh.
then it just fell for me. Jessica Jones
Mm-hmm.
was dope. Luke Cage kind of fell flat for me. Um, Agents of the Shield is god awful, awful.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot too. Yeah, I've heard that.
Um, but yeah, I mean the movies are so in between these shows that I'm stuck watching the shows, and I'm like, I gotta push through.
Yeah,
Because the
yeah.
last couple Marvel I haven't watched. I have not seen I just watched Captain Marvel for the first time not too
Okay.
long
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. It wasn't that bad.
No, I thought it was good. But yeah, I'm in chronological order, and it's such a pain to get through with these shows, man.
Yeah, that's like the cool way of watching it, but I'm like not patient. Like
Yeah.
I just have to watch the stuff I like now.
Somebody was like, "Why
But
don't you just watch the movies?" And I'm like, "I should have, but I'm too far
yeah,
in."
you
So,
probably save a lot of time doing that. But
yep.
if
Because
you
the
really want to
shows
be,
are like an hour long an episode, man, and it kills me.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, so back to wrestling here. Being a part of the Armada now, right? So you're a part of the Armada. You're a part of this faction of Chad Lennox, Lucas Chase, Shauna Reed, and Paul Hebers.
yep.
How did that come about? How did the invite for you to come about? Because we seen that your matches with Chad Lennox, it looked like you guys were going to just be opponents together. So how did the invitation come about being a part of the Armada, and how is your relationship with Chad in this group now?
So originally, like, I think I just came to training one day and Chad gave me one of these. He's like, "Come here." So I'm like, "Okay, what's up?" And he's like, "So me and Dustin have been thinking. I think I want to put you in the Armada." And I'm like, "Cool, okay." Like inside, I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." I mean, I guess I don't know, but that was pretty much it. And then a couple weeks later, he's like, "Hey, do you want to go to Connecticut?" And I'm like, I don't know. I gotta check my bank account. I don't know if I can go to Connecticut, like just make that decision right now. And he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, like you're going because we have a tag team match." And I'm like, well, I don't have a choice now. Okay. Um, but yeah, that was pretty just like I was just kind of in it, just like, okay, here's the logo, here's like get some gear. I'm like, okay, so here I am in the
So pretty
Armada.
much this is what we're doing. You're in.
Yeah,
Call it a day.
he's like, yeah, I'm like the young lion of the Armada. They call me. Like they're like, oh yeah, Sal's always carrying our luggage and getting us coffees, which is only half true, but
Only half. I only get them one
yeah,
coffee, but that's it.
yeah,
No,
sometimes
but
two.
I watched the highlights because I couldn't see the full match. It wasn't on YouTube, sadly. But you and Chad won the BST Wrestling Tag Team titles.
Yeah,
The same day Lucas Chase won the World Championship from that organization.
yeah,
How did that feel? You guys all winning gold at the same time, and that was your second championship ever, correct?
yeah, yeah. I still have them both. Yeah. Um. Yeah. It was pretty cool because for the first time in front of like a live crowd, I got to be like a legit heel. Like I've never done anything heel. Uh. Really, all I really did in front of like training. So
Yeah.
like this was brand new to me. Just like piss people off. So I'm like, man, I hope I didn't realize how much I didn't have to try. Like I'm just like
Just came naturally.
I was just like, oh, it's so easy. So the first night we did like a little small like 6-man match the night before in the same like venue. And there's a couple people there, but that was like really me testing the waters of being like a heel. And then the night after we did the tag team match, and I'm like, this is kind of fun. Like after we won the tag team titles, which we didn't cheat at all.
No.
No,
You
of
guys got
course
the
not.
win
And
clean.
yeah, and then when after that, when we got to celebrate Lucas's win after he won the belt without cheating at all, too, won fair and square. Uh, Even though like we kind of like told Dustin to get down, we just kind of carefully guided him off the ladder and let Lucas climb the ladder. We like I said, fair and square. Uh, he it was pretty cool hearing like the crowd go from like he's gonna get it, and then seeing two idiots in the Armada just run out and take this kid off the ladder, and hearing like and feeling the temperature in the room like
Just drop.
change.
Yep.
Yeah, just like, oh, this is really cool. Like seeing just seeing everything in these little kids' eyes, like, get it, Dustin, get it, and then being able to take it all away from them. I will say, like, as cool as winning the RWA championship was, like, that's pretty cool too. Like
Yeah.
I sound like such a super villain, but like I'm like, man, this is pretty fun.
Yeah.
So, and you can there's really like, of course, there's a filter with everything, but like with a heel, it's just like just make people mad. And I'm like, well, I kind of already do that, so
So perfect. I'm a smart
unintentionally.
ass, so
So
why not?
yeah, kind of, bro. So it kind of worked out.
So I mean, you prefer being a heel over a face now.
I think so. Yeah, it's just I vibe and I have a greater connection with the audience with just like I don't want to say being myself because I'm not that much of a douche, but like once I dial that to 11, I can really get a group of people to hate me.
That's awesome. And I think, man, heel just comes so natural. It really does.
Yeah,
I
to
mean,
some people, to
especially
some people, it
especially
took
like
me
I
a
said earlier, when I tried out for wrestling and stuff, I wanted to be a heel. I had that naturalness. Like I wanted to do it, you know.
yeah, and to some people, like when I first started training, like I didn't really know. I wanted to be a heel, but like I didn't know what a heel was, and I was just trying to make these characters, and I'm like, you go through so many iterations of like your ideas and stuff for like characters and heel or face, whatever. And Dustin was just like, well, you're a baby face because you have that long freaking hair and you just have this like young, freaking charming freaking face. So, all the ladies are gonna love you. You're gonna be a good guy. So I'm like, man, like felt like such a kid. Like, I want to be a bad guy. Like, I don't I don't want to be a good guy. And I'm saying this like barely gone through puberty. Like I want people to like take me serious as a heel. And I'm like,
That's
well,
hilarious.
took me a little bit to like come into my own, but like now I'm kind of somewhat understanding this heel stuff. And I'm like, oh, wrestling gave me like this confidence that I can apply back into wrestling that I'm like, oh, okay. So just be yourself. Like
Yep.
down to 11. So it's working pretty good so far.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it, and I think working with Chad too. Just Chad is a natural heel. It
Oh
just
yeah. I've seen
I
him do
personally
some.
love him. I think he's fantastic at it, but you could tell that crowd turns on him so quickly. Like,
Oh, for sure. Like I've seen him try to do some like good guy stuff. I'm just like, I don't know who this freaking guy is, but it's definitely not Chad. You can see like this fake like let's go Austin kind of like, all right, bro, you can stop now. Like you can knock it off now.
come back to being
Uh,
Chad. Come on.
exactly, yeah. And then he just snaps into this heel character, and I'm like, that's how I know you. That's right. Don't ever change.
I tell him all the time when I message him or I'll talk to him or whatever. I'll be like, dude, your "I hate it here" catchphrase is probably by far my favorite catchphrase. I don't
Yeah,
know
because
why. I just love it.
it works in like almost every category, like other than wrestling too. You
Oh
could wear
yeah.
that shirt. You could wear that shirt to work.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
hate
And
it here.
I told him, let me know when it comes back in black. I don't like wearing white shirts. I like wearing black shirts.
Oh
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
told him when it comes back in black, please let me know because I want to get that shirt
ACDC.
so badly, man. I want to get that
Yeah,
back in black ACDC. Yep,
yeah. Sorry.
yep. um, outside of wrestling, do you have any hobbies? Do you collect anything fun? Do you do anything fun?
um, besides like go to work, go to the gym, and just train. I don't know. I mean, what do I do for fun? Huh. I do collect stuff. Like my dad's super like collectible, like freaking fiend, dude. Like he's got there's the closet like right over to my right over here, like thousands of dollars worth of like Funko Pops,
Oh wow.
collectible figures, dude. It's insane. He just recently, not recently, but his most expensive one I think is. You ever watch the Goonies?
Yeah, yeah.
You remember Sloth?
Yep.
He's got like the OG Sloth, which is him with like the Superman shirt.
Okay.
That's like that's like his prized possession. But I have a couple Funko Pops, but
That's a
my
Funko Pop that he has of Sloth, or is it like
yeah,
a fig?
yeah,
Okay,
it's a Funko Pop.
that's
That's like
dope.
super old. It's like vaulted, which means like they don't sell it anymore.
Right.
But my prized possession, I'd say, and I've said this before on like a different podcast, is I have the TMNT The Last Ronin comic book that was like one of the first iterations. It's got art on the cover from like the original artists and like they don't even sell this version anymore because the factory that they were printing them in got like flooded, so they all got ruined. But I have one of like the few that made it, and so I actually bought this from my dad. Bought it for me from the promoter that promoted, not promoter, but like he was the guy who helped put together the match in Daytona for my tag team match.
Yeah.
He has a toy store and he had it there, and I'm like, yo, every time we go in there, I'm like, there's only one thing I want in here, and it's that. And one day my dad came home and he's like, I got something for you, but it's your birthday and your Christmas present. So yeah, I'm like, fair. So that thing, dude, it's got I got a light above it in my closet. Put my light on and go get like clothes or whatever. Every morning I look right at it. It's like my prize possession. If you ever seen that comic book before?
I've seen it. I have never read it. I never got to open it, but I've seen the
It,
cover of it.
it's briefly like all the Ninja Turtles die except spoiler alert. Cover your ears if you're listening to this and you don't want a spoiler alert for this. But Michelangelo's the only one that lives, and he has to like take on like the grandson of Shredder, I think. And he has to like avenge his dead brothers and like Casey and uh April has like a daughter or something like that. But they have like a whole like 6 or 7 book series of it. But I got like the first one, and that one's like, yo, that's very special to me. And I want to get into like collecting comic books, but I just don't have the money for it. So
You'll get there one day. That's how my goal was, man. Is like I always wanted to own a replica championship belt, like a real replica one. And the Intercontinental title was my one. The
which
one with
one?
the white strap, the one
Oh,
that
like the
Cody
one they
Rhodes
just got
brought
rid of?
back.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure, bro. Yeah, yeah.
So that was what I wanted so bad, man. And this is before Cody even came out with that title. This is when they had the one that Van Dam used to wear and stuff, the one that had like the globe, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when I was looking at titles back online, like I was a kid, and I told my mom, like, I want that title. And she's like, it's too expensive. You're not getting it. And she kept telling me that for years. Um, and then about, I want to say 6 years ago, my ex-fiance wanted to go get her hair done. And she's like, it's going to be like 200 and something dollars. And I'm like, I'm getting this replica championship out there. And she's like, whatever. So I ordered it, dude, and it came here. And I remember I had it on my shoulder the entire night. We were watching movies and stuff, had it on my shoulder the entire night. I put
Dude,
it around
yeah.
my waist, took out the garbage with it. Like, dude,
Yeah, dude.
it was so cool. And I just went from there. Like, I don't know if you could see, but I've got a Hurt Business poster behind there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Behind me, there's a light, but I got the Undisputed poster right there.
I
Undisputed
kind of make
Era.
out, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm looking at my Street Profits one. I've got the Bloodline. If I turn the computer, Bloodline's over
Heck
there.
yeah, dude. Yeah, yeah.
Um, I've got over 150 wrestling figures. I've got 7 replica championship belts now.
Dang.
But yeah, my wrestling collection. While I was working, I had a break and I went downstairs and my Justin Gabriel action figure actually just arrived today. So I'm pretty pumped
Heck
to
yeah,
throw that in
dude.
my collection. But yeah, man, wrestling collecting is the best. It's expensive as hell too. But once you
Yeah,
start getting it, man, you'll get that comic book collection off the ground like quickly.
yeah.
You
I
know,
gotta figure something out with it because uh I was fascinated, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of heat for mentioning this guy's name. Uh, you can bleep it if you want. Logan Paul's like Pokemon, like how
okay.
he was able to like bring that back. I'm like, that's kind of cool. I want to do that with like comic books, like
Yeah.
kind of make that a big deal. I don't know how, but like I was obsessed with like comic books, and I always drew like the covers growing up. Like I was just I didn't read them as much. I just kind of like looked at the pictures. But my
Yeah.
dad would always take me to the flea market, and like we pick out a comic book, and I'd read it, draw the cover, and that was just like our little thing. So if I could find a way to like modernize that, like bring it back somehow, make it cool, I don't know.
Do
I
it,
think that'd be
man.
cool.
Do it. I mean, that's how I was with wrestling figures because I remember as a kid, like I played with wrestling figures until I was in high school. Like
Yeah.
one of my friends will still make fun of me about it. She'll be like, "Yeah, I can remember being on the phone with you, and all I hear is like clink, clink," and I'm like, "Yeah, I played with them until like sophomore year of high school, and then I stopped, man, because I was like, I'm getting too old to play with figures."
You're never too old, man. You're never too old.
Well, so back when I found out Matt Cardona collects figures and he's older than me. I'm like, man, if he collects shit, I'm gonna start doing it again. And I've got a couple figures outside of the box, like my Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash. I've got my Triple H, Orton, Batista, Ric Flair out of the box. The Four Horsewomen out of their boxes. I just started collecting AEW figures, but my thing is like, okay, if I collect WWE elites and AEW figures, right? So the way I look at this is Dean Ambrose had an elite. WWE is always going to be my home. Like that's my heart.
Yeah.
That's where I started.
Right.
So I collect elites first and foremost. So if a wrestler has an elite and they jump over to AEW, I'm not buying their AEW figure.
Why
Like
is that?
because I don't have the money. So if I get one figure of them,
Oh.
I'm done.
Oh, fair. Yeah. Okay.
So like I got the Shield pack when
Oh, I got that.
FYE was
Yeah.
doing it.
I got
Um,
that. Yeah.
so yeah, I bought that. So I have a Dean Ambrose already. Cody Rhodes had his elites before he went to AEW. If he would have got his figures in AEW before he had an elite originally, then I'd be like, all right, I'm buying a Cody Rhodes AEW figure. That's just how my logic is. Like whatever company their
Fair.
first toy comes out from, that's what I'm getting.
Okay.
I'm very upset about the Rob Van Dam one, man, because the newer one that just came out is the one I want so bad, and I already bought one years ago, and I'm like, man, if I would have just waited, but dude, the figure collecting, it's a pain, it's expensive,
No, it can
but
be, man. Yeah.
like you said, I mean, Logan Paul brought back the Pokemon stuff, and that's why you went into the comics. Matt Cardona brought back the figures for me, and I'm like, man,
Yeah, man.
collecting is so cool, man. It really is.
Yeah, it is. It is, man. It's like a sense of like, what's the word I'm trying to use? Like, I don't want to say pride, but like, and it makes you like, it reminds you of your childhood,
Yeah.
like it makes you feel good. Like, I don't know. I don't even know how like words to describe it. It's very cool. It's fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't play with them. I don't do that. I just have them displayed, man. And I love it. It's so cool to look at and be like, man, I can't believe I got all these. Like my dad's like,
Yeah.
well, one day when you sell them, and I'm like, I'm not selling these
No, yeah.
ever,
They're going to my grave. Yeah.
right. No, my goal is, man, is I want to display the crap out of them once I get a house, have like a whole room dedicated to pro wrestling.
Heck yeah.
I watched
Yeah.
Matt Cardona's videos, and he's got that room where it's like all his figures just all around,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay. And there's a wrestler that wrestled from the Nightmare Factory who trained there. He was in the first showcase, I think, or the second. But I became really good friends with him. His name's Josh Breezy, and he calls himself the Hardy Boys, or the Kobe Bryant of Hardy Boys collecting. And if you look at his YouTube, he's got almost every single Hardy Boys figure ever made, and it's amazing, absolutely amazing.
Dang. Kobe
But
Bryant of Hardy Boys collecting. Interesting. Okay.
yep. But man, do your thing. Collect those comics. I
Yeah.
mean, one by one, man. Do it one by one. You don't even have to
Yeah.
go all out. Like
I got a
once a
couple.
month if you're
Yeah.
feeling. But Slim, it was awesome talking to you, man. I loved having you on the show. This was actually the longest conversation I've had in a long time with a wrestler, so I'm pretty
How long
pumped
did we
about this.
go?
Hour and a half, man. It's been
Oh, wow.
almost an hour and 40 to be honest. But do you want to tell the fans where they could find you at on social media?
Yeah. You'll find me at Slim7 on it, like Instagram, Twitter. It won't be spelled seven though. It'll be SVN because the other Slim7 was taken. I'm working on that. Slim7 on Instagram and Twitter, YouTube, Slim7, just spell it out. ProWrestlingTees.com/Slim7. You get all my merchandise. I not hand draw, but like one of them I hand drew. I design all my t-shirts myself, and I'm working on like a better way of kind of printing more and like making them more accessible for like shows I go to. I got some 8x10s, and what else? You'll see me in the next showcase, and hopefully I'll retain the belt and kick some in the balls again.
Oh, dude, you have to poke them in the eye and then hit them in the balls.
Yeah.
Double time.
Whatever I got to do, man. Whatever I got to do. Longest reigning.
Absolutely. Slim, it was a pleasure talking to you, man. I hope the fans get to enjoy this and then get to enjoy your story of how you're progressing into pro wrestling. Dude, I wish you nothing but success in the pro wrestling world. You're going to kill it. You're going to continue to kill it. I look forward to see what's coming up for you, man.
Appreciate
But
you, man.
until next time, guys, this is Matt Kozakowski signing off. You guys have a good night.